The head football coach at the University of Texas at El Paso, Sean Kugler. Cougs, a busy day for you. It was signing day, and congratulations on the class and the announcement earlier of the 24 student-athletes that signed for 2016.
Yeah, we're very excited. We feel good about the things that we added to our team. We added some good speed, some good size, I think, some good physicality, and a lot of guys that are really versatile at their position. So, really, just signed 24 football players is what we were looking for, and we feel we got that.
Before we get to some of the specifics, how difficult is it for you now as a head coach, and really the signing game itself compared to, let's say, years ago when you were an assistant for Charlie Bailey here at UTEP and you were one of the assistants recruiting players?
Recruiting's always a chore. It's a lot of hard work. You got to put a lot of detail into it. Our coaches do a great job of getting to know the kids, getting to know their families, and I think that's important. You got to get to know these kids and understand what type of kid you're getting, what type of player you're getting, and there's certain things you can't find out about a kid until you're around them a lot. Like their motivation, how much heart they play with, their instincts, those type of things. So you have to be around them a lot, and it's not just something that's thrown together in a month. It takes a long time to do that.
Coach, first of all, like Steve said, congratulations on the class, and as a lifelong El Pasoan, congratulations on signing the most ever El Pasoans that you've ever gotten. That's got to mean something to you, Coach.
Yeah, I think it's important. Since we took over as a staff, that's one of the first things that we targeted and talked about. It starts here in El Paso. We believe that. We've signed 17 El Pasoans since we've been here, and numerous walk-ons many of those that have received scholarships too. So, I've said it to the staff day one. They may have kind of looked at me cross-eyed when I said it, but I have a goal to have a player from every high school in El Paso on our team at some point, and we're getting there.
And also, matter of fact, you've gotten the best player in El Paso the past couple of years as well.
Yeah, it's 4 straight years we've gotten the Player of the Year in El Paso, starting with Aaron Jones and then Eddie Senegal and Warren Reddicks, and then this year Richie Rodriguez. So they're all quality football players, which speaks highly of the type of football that's being played in El Paso. It's something. When people start noticing that we're signing that many, they're going to start realizing that there's quality football in El Paso. It's something that we've known since we've been here.
Talking right now with head coach of the UTEP Miners, Sean Kugler, on our Village Inn hotline, getting things going here on Sports Talk. So you look at this list, 24 players. It breaks down perfectly, 12 on offense, 12 on defense. And you mentioned afterwards that there were things you were really looking for in this year's class. You wanted players that were versatile. You also wanted an upgrade in speed, especially since you're moving to that 3-4 defense next season. And you wanted character guys, and it seems like as far as that goes, you really addressed all of the needs. Not to mention some huge hitters. As we watched the videos today, Coach, we saw a lot of the defensive backs and linebackers were having no trouble at all laying the wood down on their opponents.
Yeah, and that's the style of defense we want to play, and the emphasis was put on defense. We wanted to get some defensive linemen that we felt could stand up as a linebacker, also, could possibly grow into a defensive end. Guys like Keith Sullivan, 6'7", guys like Dedrick Simpson that are, 260. These are guys that can do a little bit of both. And same thing at the linebacker position. We signed 4 linebackers, but some of those guys are kind of hybrid defensive ends. And when you start getting into some of this nickel stuff and dime stuff, when teams are playing the spread, you're not going to be just sitting in a base 3-4. So some of these outside linebackers and stuff like that have to be able to line up with their hand in the ground as well. So we felt good about the quality we got there. Very excited about the physicality of the defensive backs that we signed. I really think all 4 of them come downhill and bring the wood.
You can never really tell off the bat, at least on a day like today, how many of these guys are going to play as freshmen. I guess ideally you want to redshirt as many as possible and give them that extra year, but have you noticed anything yet as far as the defensive players on film and having a chance to meet these guys that you could see 1 or 2 of them coming in and contributing to the Miners next year?
Well, every year somebody does, but you really can't predict it because you never know how a kid's going to react until he puts the pads on and goes to camp. And I don't make any prejudgments until I actually get to camp. And there's other factors that go into it. How well is the kid acclimating to college? How well is he acclimating to the classroom? And how physically ready is he, or how mentally ready is he? And you don't find those things out till they get here. So we don't make any predictions or judgments on that. We signed 24 guys today, but not all those guys will be with us in the fall. We got to determine. We're going to gray shirt some of these guys and bring them in the spring. Most of these guys, hopefully we can redshirt. I think we're getting to that point in our program where less and less freshmen you'll see on the field, which is a good thing. And, I hope at some point we get to where we redshirt everybody.
Coach, it's no secret that next year the offense is going to run through Aaron Jones, but you added some depth in the running back position, specifically with Kevin Dove, who's 6 feet, but he's 250 pounds, and he's got explosive speed. I mean, when we saw the video today, without a doubt, he was the most impressive in the running back position that I thought.
Yeah, he's a bull now, and he's all of 250. He weighed 251 on his visit. He runs angry. He runs over people. Physical guy that really could probably go in a bunch of different directions. He can line up the one back. He can line up in the eye. He could be a fullback. He's a physical kid. Love his demeanor. I think all four of the running backs were quality. We got the Texas Player of the Year and Quadres Wadley, Kennedale. He had an unbelievable senior season, and he's a smooth runner. The kid from Friendship is a very shifty, smooth runner, and then the kid from Baltimore, he's a physical 225-pound runner too. So got two different styles of runners, and then you had Walter Dawn in the mix and Richie Rodriguez. You got guys that could line up in the backfield, much like Warren Reddick did for us last year.
You put up some great comps during today's press conference, and if you haven't checked it out, we got the video up at 600ESPNElPaso.com, the full press conference with Sean Kugler. You put a couple of comps at Wadley, the running back from Kennedale. First, you mentioned Aaron Jones, and then you said you could even see some John Harvey in him. And if people are old enough to remember what John Harvey was like here, since you were one of the guys blocking for him in the late 80s, no doubt one of the most dynamic runners in the history of the program. That's some pretty good praise coming from you, throwing an Aaron Jones and John Harvey at a guy like Wadley.
Well, the things I saw in Aaron Jones is the ability to accelerate, and you saw that on the film today. When he's about to pull away, he can accelerate, and the things that I saw John Harvey-wise, this kid can put a dead leg on you. He can stop and start on a dime, and he's got great change of direction. So I think he's got a little bit of mix of both, and if he could even be part of both or half of both, you got yourself a hell of a player.
You recruited so many of these guys from the state of Texas. I think I saw that 19 of the 24 came from Texas. So I always love the stories from the out-of-town guys. How'd you land a kid from Baltimore, Maryland, in Antonio Dupree, the running back you mentioned a moment ago, considering Baltimore is not always a hotbed of UTEP talent, Coach?
Well, you know what? I think nowadays when you have the ability to get on, they call it huddle, you have the ability to get film sent to your phone in an instant. I may be sitting in an airport getting ready to get on a plane or visit a kid, and I get emails with film, and it's readily available. So, just like social media and all that other stuff, I think the distance has been narrowed because, it's just so easy to access film. 20 years ago, if you had a kid from Baltimore, you had to request a film from the coach, and you may have had to wait 2 weeks just to get the film. Now it's readily available. So I think those distance barriers have been broken down, and we'll look anywhere to find a player. I know we signed 2 from Washington, and 1 from Maryland, 1 from California, 1 from Kansas, but the mainstay of our recruiting is going to be Texas. And we went outside the box the first couple of years to try to get some size, and we really felt that was necessary. But I think we're at the point in our program now that we can really focus in on Texas.
If you get a chance, let's talk a little bit about Walter Down. He's the 5'6", 170-pound speedster from Mesquite, Texas, in Poteet High School. You called him Go-Go Gadget today. A 10-3 100-yard dash, which is ridiculous speed. And I think a lot of Miner fans would probably remember a guy like Howard Jackson, who was similar size, had unbelievable speed, dominated on the ground offensively, plus in the special teams game. And I know that Miner fans would love to have another Howard Jackson type if Walter Dawn could become that kind of guy.
Yeah, football players come in all shapes and sizes. And, you mentioned before Kevin Dove is 250. Well, Walter's 5'6" on a good day. He's probably closer to 5'5", but he's a put-together kid. He's 170 pounds, very well built. very strong legs, and he's done it on the ground, 7 yards a carry. He's done it in the passing game, almost 20 yards per reception. But I see this guy being a kick returner, punt returner, special teams player. That type of speed and the toughness that he brings for his size, I think he's going to be a real exciting player for us.
Coach, are you surprised how big National Signing Day has become? I mean, just at the Durham Center today, there was about 500 people when we walked in. I was actually surprised at how many people were there and how huge has it become.
Yeah, I think, people get excited about it because, they're seeing the future of their team. It's much like in the NFL. There's always a lot of anticipation and excitement surrounding the NFL draft because that's the first time you get an opportunity to get a glimpse into the team's future. And college is the same thing. You're bringing on 24 new players, a quarter of your team, and that's the future. You're looking 2-3 years down the line before you can determine whether it's a good group or a bad group or those type things. But I feel real good about the group. Time will tell, but again, from a character standpoint and from a production standpoint, this is certainly the best class that we've brought in.
And I know some people love to look at ratings and stars, and they'll be the first to say, wow, look at how many 3-star, 4-star, 5-star players you grab. I'm amazed at looking over the last 15 years of UTEP players and how many 2-star guys turned into big-time college contributors, guys that play on Sunday in the NFL. And Sean, it's not just here at UTEP, it's everywhere. I mean, is it safe to say that sometimes the star rating can be one of the most misjudged label for a kid coming out of high school?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't believe in it whatsoever. I think it's kind of a joke. I think it's kind of media driven and fan driven, but it really means nothing. Again, I threw a stat out last year. The two teams that played in the Super Bowl, Seattle and New England, had no 5 stars. They had, I think, maybe 1 or 2 4-stars. The majority of their players were either 2 or 3 stars or no stars. And you look at our own team. Nobody can argue with me that there's a better running back in our conference than Aaron Jones. Well, hell, he was 2 stars, and his brother was no stars. And in my mind, he's the best linebacker in our conference. I think if those guys were rated right now, they'd be 4 or 5 stars. So it means nothing. It's about getting players that you really feel good about that are productive and develop them. When I was at Boise, the one class that we signed had no guy over 2 stars. Well, Doug Martin ended up being a first-round draft pick. Shea McClellan ended up being a first-round draft pick. I mean, you're talking about developing players. And again, it's not where they start, it's where they finish. And how many times do you look at those rating lists, and the same schools are always up at the top, and they got 15 5-stars. Well, at the end of the deal, they're 6 and 5 or 6 and 6, so either they ain't developing or it really doesn't mean anything. To me, it really means nothing.
You added one JUCO player in this class. Everybody else was a high school senior. Tanner Stallings comes from Hutchinson Community College via Sterling, Kansas, and you love this guy. You say he's physical, great student. Also, somebody that will be a potential center for you on that offensive line. And I don't think there's anybody here that would argue with your evaluation of players, especially on the O-line. So it's got to be a good feeling to know that you could plug a guy like Stallings right in for next year, and he's somebody that can help anchor that line for the next couple of years.
Yeah, he gives us a lot of options, and it's very important that we have a center in the spring, which he's here this semester because Darren Gatewood, who he'll be competing with for the starting center spot, is out for the spring. He broke his leg at the end of last year, and he will not be available for the spring. So he's going to get a lot of on-the-job training quickly, and I really like Tanner's demeanor. He's a smart kid. He's already gotten right into the mix, working hard, and he's just a tough old lineman, and plays the game the way it's supposed to be played. He plays nasty, and I think he's going to be a quality center for us. And if he is, and if he ends up being our starter, boy, it gives us a lot of options for guys like Gatewood where we can move around.
Coach, you added Mark Torres from Eastwood High School here in El Paso, adding another mobile quarterback to your slate of quarterbacks. How impressed were you with Mark's play this year?
That was maybe one of the best years I've seen out of a high school quarterback. Here's a guy that had close to 4,000 yards throwing, 71% completion percentage, only 9 interceptions on 41 touchdowns. I mean, it's great numbers, but the thing that impressed me the most is his mobility, to be able to make throws on the run, and a lot of the things that we're going to try to implement in this offense, he fits well, and I think it just adds to our quarterback, what we have on our team right now with Metz and Kavika Johnson and Mac Leftwich. These are all athletic quarterbacks, all mobile quarterbacks that have good arms, and I think he's going to fit right in. And, he just needs time in the weight room and time developing, but I think we got a really good one there.
I think the addition of Torres as the lone quarterback signed also says something to a lot of Miner fans that you've got a lot of confidence right now in Ryan Metz, Kavika Johnson, and potentially Mac Leftwich all returning next season to anchor that position under a new offensive coordinator, Brent Pease, while Mark Torres kind of gets himself acclimated to this UTEP offense.
Yeah, and he's coming in at a good time. He's got Brent Pease coaching him. And, I've been around Brent Pease. He's great at developing quarterbacks. He's been up here, meeting with these guys. He's got a system in place. He's very good at teaching them the fundamentals of the game. And really, you look at our 4 quarterbacks, 3 of them are from the El Paso area, and I think that's pretty darn exciting.
It is, and it's something people probably would never believe if they were to tell you that 3 of your 4 quarterbacks on the depth chart would be El Paso kids. Some people would probably be saying, I could never see that happen. But that's just a sign not only of the fact that you've been going after the El Paso talent, but that there's good enough football players in this city to eventually have a chance to put on the Miner jersey and star one day here at the Sun Bowl.
Yeah, and there's kids sitting in the stands right now, and they're watching Aaron and Alvin Jones, and guys like Elmendorf and Metz, and they're sitting there going, I want to be one of those guys one day. And just like Aaron Jones was as a kid growing up. And it means something to these kids. They take a lot of pride in El Paso, and that doesn't go unnoticed to me. And this isn't my first experience with it. When I was a player here, all the El Paso players, I noticed they took pride in playing for the university. When I coached here with Charlie Bailey and Gary Nord, I always felt the El Paso players played with a little bit more edge, maybe because they felt they were under-recruited, and they always wanted to go out and put on a good show in front of the Miner fans. So it's something that we're going to continue to do. We really feel it's one of the niches that's going to help our program be successful. And to be honest with you, some of the best players on our team right now are from El Paso.
UTEP head football coach Sean Kugler, as we wrap things up here on our Village Inn hotline. You got about 6 weeks until you start spring ball on the 14th of next month at Glory Field. I think the exciting part for you is not only getting a chance to see your players back on the field, but also you have a lot of new assistant coaches to work into the mix, and I'm sure spring is going to be can't come around soon enough, so you get a chance to see just how the players respond to new coordinators on both sides and some new additional assistants on your staff as well.
Yeah, there'll be some growing pains. We pushed spring ball back 2 weeks this year, and I think it's going to be good for our team in many ways. Number one, to a couple more weeks to implement the system, and a couple more weeks for some of these guys that really were banged up at the end of the year to get healed. We're still going to be very thin numbers-wise in spring because we'll have 9 guys that will be out. Most of those guys are starters. So, but you got to look at it in a positive way and look at it as though you're going to get a lot of work, quality work for guys that are younger. And that's, a big part of spring ball as well.
Coach, congratulations once again on the signing class. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll look forward to checking back in with you in March as we get closer to the start of spring practice.
All right, I appreciate it, my man. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach Sean Kugler of the UTEP Miners.